Bebo and welcome to the next installment of my training series. For maximum revolution and control over the baton, having proper technique on your fundamentals is absolutely crucial. But don't flip out just yet, because today I'm going to teach you some tips and tricks to perfect 5 essential twirling flips that should be a staple in any one of your routines. So let's get twirling. Our first essential flip is, of course, the thumb flip. This is not only the most common flip used by twirlers, but it's also the most vital for trick success. It's the toss that we use for all of those high tosses, for all of those cool tricks that we get to do. But in order to get them as high as we want with good revolution, to be able to sustain in the air, to do those cool tricks, we need to have the proper fundamental technique. To begin training proper technique for the thumb flip, we need to perfect the thumb roll. So for this, we're going to hold the baton in the middle and hold it at the middle of our body. You're going to rotate the baton clockwise in front of you, and then you're going to stop the baton wedged between your thumb and your index finger, really tight in your knuckle right there. You don't want it too far out. You want it nice and tight in that nook so that it doesn't roll out or roll out and away from you when you get up to those higher toss levels. Once you get here, I'm going to go in with my palm up. I'm going to hit the baton with the pinky side of my hand and roll the baton over my thumb into my other hand. So I'm doing this in my right hand and rolling it into my left hand here to start. And you want to make sure that it gets that really good rolling motion over that thumb and that it doesn't roll too far out once again, and that you're not rolling it off pattern. You're not twisting your wrist one direction or another, but you're maintaining that really rigid but nice and comfortable position in your hand. Once you've mastered the thumb roll, you're ready to move on to the thumb flip. The thumb flip is going to begin the exact same way as the thumb roll. It's going to rotate into that crevice between your thumb and your index finger here, and it's going to continue rotating, and as it does, that's when you get to curl those other fingers in really tight and let your wrist begin that rotation point. So once you get here, it's going to continue rotating. And when it gets to here, that's when you're going to push your thumb out and rotate that wrist. That's how twirlers get those beautiful thumb release calluses right there from the baton rubbing against the side of your hand as you release it. Something very critical that I learned as I was retraining my basics was that I was releasing it too far away from this base of the thumb webbing. I was releasing it out here. And so I had my callus here for many years, and I found that I had a lot of trouble placing my baton and controlling the revolution or the direction. And once I started training that thumb flip further back, training that callus further back, closer to that webbing, I found that my placement improved, my pattern improved, and my overall control of the baton improved. If you are just learning the thumb flip for the first time, be sure to take your time and find their timing on that release point. If you release too soon, you'll find that it likely won't spin very fast, it will dead stick, and it will oftentimes go to the left. And if you release too late, it will oftentimes go to the right. You also want to make sure that that hand stays in the middle of your body and you're at the center of the baton at all times. That way, you're not hooking the baton, which is a very common issue that leads to the baton additionally going to the right, or you don't pull your baton across your body and toss it to the left. So center of body, bring that baton straight up in the air for a straight toss. Once you've trained up the flip itself, now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the technique of a thumb flip. You want to make sure that that elbow stays nice and tight into your side. It's not floating out here, but it's nice and tight. Once again, that baton is in the center, your hand is in the middle of your body, and when you release it, you're going to curl those fingertips around like I said earlier, and you're going to lift your thumb straight up. You want to bring it right up the middle of your face. That's how you can tell it's going to go straight up in the air. If you point your thumb to the right, it's gonna go to the right, thumb to the left, it's gonna go to the left. So you essentially just wanna set the GPS for exactly where you wanna send the baton, which is most of the time straight up in the air. Now it's time to catch the baton. So when you go to catch a regular thumb toss, catch right, so it's a right hand thumb toss, right hand catch, you want to receive the baton with your palm facing straight forward, your thumb is going to be out, you're going to receive the baton with that thumb out, and then close your fingers around it. Now this seems like it would be fairly obvious, however, you want to make sure that your palm is in the right direction so that you can really cushion that toss with a soft-handed catch. This will make the baton flow in and out of any kind of release that you do, as well as help maintain proper pattern and control on the reception. To drill and train these, I recommend doing 1 revolution thumb flips in a row as a part of your daily warm-up to really make sure that you have proper control, that the baton is rolling off the proper place on your thumb, and that you can spot the 1 revolution flip and train that proper catch. Flip number 2 is the backhand flip. This one is another very common flip that you likely do in many of your routines. However, it's probably the flip that I see done incorrectly the very most. To begin our backhand flip, we're going to start with a full hand grip, and then we're going to put our index finger on the baton. This is going to provide direction, momentum, and keep the baton on pattern as we release the backhand flip. So once our index finger is on the baton, I'm going to make sure that my palm is facing the side at all times. You never want it to face the front or toward you. I'll demonstrate a little bit more of what I mean by that. So I have my index finger on the baton. If I'm doing a right hand backhand flip, my palm is facing to the left. As I rotate my wrist, it's going to face toward the ground and then toward my right side. And so that's the positioning of my palm through the motion. You never, once again, want to face toward the front or toward you as you're doing the backhand flip. Now for the arms. On the backhand flip, your arm positioning is going to be a little bit different than it is in a thumb flip, but in the same way, you want to keep it controlled and in the middle of your body. So I have my index finger on the baton, and I'm actually going to take my left hand and reach around my back and touch the back of my right elbow. This is just a reminder to myself that I'm not going to lift my elbow as I release this backhand flip, that I want to keep it really nice and tight into my side. It's important to keep in mind also that while your elbow is not going to be stuck to your side at all times, otherwise it's going to be really hard to release that backhand flip. But once again, it's just a little reminder to yourself that you don't want to let that elbow float away from your side, so keep it nice and tight. Now that our elbow is nice and tight into our side, I'm going to take my index finger and I'm actually going to ever so slightly straighten my elbow down toward the ground. My baton's going to maintain that kind of centered placement on my body, but it's going to ever so slightly straighten downward, and then I'm going to rotate my wrist now so that my index finger is pointing toward the ground. So as I straighten, I'm going to then lift as I point my index finger to the right side. So it's just a little up after that downward motion. It's really important that you get that down up in there so that the baton will spin more quickly than if you were to just lift from your elbow, and it will also keep the pattern nice and tight into your body. The basic right hand reception from a right hand backhand flip is with the palm up. So when you receive it, you want to make sure that your thumb is pointing toward your right shoulder or toward the right, and you're going to receive it right with that palm facing the ceiling. Once again, another valuable training tip for these is to incorporate them into your warm-up routine every day. Doing single revolution backhand flips nice and tight into your body, maintaining control over the placement, the revolution, and the reception will really help you be able to improve and increase the height on these tosses. Our third flip is the open hand flip. This one is not as simple as it seems, even though it's way less technical than the thumb flip. I actually like to think of this as an open hand pinch flip because there's quite a bit of squeezing and tightening in order to control the revolution and the placement of this toss. If you just simply open your hand and hope the baton will go in the direction you want it to, unfortunately, you might not have the same success as if you were to tightly control this toss. So now I'm going to teach you how. To begin the open hand flip, you're going to take your index finger, your thumb, and your middle finger, and you're going to squeeze the baton. As you unwind your wrist and release the baton outward, you're actually going to point the rest of your fingers in that direction, and once again, those fingers are going to act as the GPS and the guiding force of where you want that open hand flip to go. As you go to release it, you're going to actually pinch and almost snap the side of the baton with your index fingers. So to practice this, I'm going to take these fingers and I'm just going to try pinching the side of the baton. As you're unwinding to release, you extend those fingers out and you're going to pinch the side of the baton. And what this is going to do is actually going to, in a way, yank that side of the baton that's nearest to you down, and that will leverage the opposite side upward, further increasing the revolution, and those fingers are going to act as the guiding force to place it better. So that's going to give you way more revolution, way more control than if you were to simply just open your hand and let the baton go. The purpose of this flip, as opposed to the thumb flip, is that you can release it much faster simply by open-handing it than you can by doing the full wrist rotation of a thumb flip. You have a little bit less control and less revolution, but there are some cases in which that is necessary. So this flip can be a very helpful one to have in your bag of tricks. My favorite way to use the open hand flip is into an angel roll, because I need to slow the revolution, but not so slow that it doesn't rotate, but just fast enough that it's way easier for me to stick my hand into the angel roll reception. So that's just one example of how the open hand release can be a helpful tool. Remember that you always want to keep this flip on pattern, so to do so, as you go across your body to release it, it's important to keep it nice and tight on pattern in front of you, not away from you at this angle, or you don't want to pull it back towards you. So as you set the pattern for this through the initiation of the toss, you can be able to follow through better, really relax the rest of those fingertips, and snap that baton around. To integrate this flip into your daily warm-up routine, I recommend doing thumb flip, catch backhands into an open hand, release, switch to the other hand, and then you can repeat the same thing on the opposite side. That way you can have that leverage of that upside down rotation from the backhand catch to come around and pinch to open up that open hand toss. The fourth flip is an open hand backhand flip. And it might be a bit of a mouthful, but I will say that it's probably one of the easiest flips we know. I think it's important that I mention right now that there is a difference between the backhand flip and the open hand backhand flip. And in order to really maximize your revolution as well as your scores, it's important to have both in your toolbox, but know the difference and know when to use each one. Similar to the open hand flip, the open hand backhand flip is able to be released much faster than a backhand because you don't have to go through the entire wrist rotation, and oftentimes you don't have to prep into it with the loop. You can simply just open that hand and it will release on its own. However, once again, the revolution is usually much slower and it's much more difficult to control the placement. In my mind, I think the most common use for this open hand backhand and the most helpful use for it is, say, in a 2-baton routine, or even in your solo when you just need a quick release where the baton is spinning in that direction, but you need to release it quickly, and it's usually a fairly low flip, because the higher you make this one, the way less controlled it is. So let's dive in how to do the open hand backhand flip. We're going to start with a full hand grip on the baton. I like to have a little bit more baton on the side with my pinky than I do with my thumb. I have a super sharp baton, so my center of balance is already a little bit closer to that big end, but it doesn't really matter. I just like having a lot of baton on the pinky side to leverage that rotation as I release the toss. So as I begin the release, my palm is up, I have a full hand grip on the baton, and I'm going to rotate the baton counterclockwise. So I'm going to rotate so that my palm is facing to the left when I'm doing a right hand open hand backhand flip. And then as I rotate my hand to almost facing the ground, so my palm is almost facing the ground, that's when I'm going to open up my hand, my palm toward the front of me. So I'm going to rotate my wrist, and right about here, I'm going to pull my fingers up toward the ceiling and keep my palm forward. I want to wait just long enough that the baton is going to begin rotating over that pinky side knuckle right here, so that as I release it, it smoothly releases out of that side of my hand. If I go too soon, it's likely going to go downward toward the ground, have no revolution, or if I wait too long, it goes to the left and gets a little out of control. In order to really increase the revolution on this and further increase the control and the placement, it's important that you get a good little wrist snap into the initiation of this release. So you really want to swing that baton down, the longer end preferably, so that you have that leverage, and you're going to really increase the speed of that wrist twist as you bring it down and up to open. Similar to how we would receive the baton with a backhand flip, you're going to simply receive the open hand backhand with your palm up. To incorporate this into your daily practice routine, you can simply do a loop across your body before you come around and open hand it to the side, to then repeat it again. You can get into this flow of being able to really control and place that open hand backhand. The fifth and final essential flip is the elbow flip. This is another one that I see done incorrectly all the time, but luckily I have some tips to help you figure out the perfect technique and train it up. This one begins at the end of the baton, and at this point you want to once again have your index finger on the baton and your fingers wrapped around the end. You're going to make sure that you have it nice and tight into the palm of your hand at this point, and you're nice and tight. As you swing the baton down and before it comes up, you want to make sure that your palm is facing directly toward your shoulder. So this is a right hand elbow flip, so my right hand palm is going to face my right shoulder. This is really, really important because this is what places the pattern and the controlling momentum of this flip. So as I swing it down, I make sure my palm is facing toward me, and that my elbow then follows as my wrist rotates and bends at this 90-degree angle. So my wrist is going to bend and my elbow is going to get in nice and tight. I'm also going to touch my knuckles to my shoulder. This is once again incredibly important for the pattern, but what comes next is probably the most important and the most commonly and correctly done part of it. After you swing the baton down, your knuckles come up and touch your shoulder. Once again, really make sure that wrist is straight to the side. Don't rotate your wrist so that your palm is facing you. You really don't want to do this. This is incorrect elbow release technique and will not allow the baton to maximize its revolution. So you want to make sure that palm is facing the side. Once it's come up and around, the baton is going to swing down, and at this point you want your elbow to be ever so slightly out away from you. You don't want to cross it towards your body, you want it away from your midline just slightly, because from here the baton is actually going to swing out and roll across your triceps before you let go and the baton goes upward. Obviously, once again, similar to our open hand, backhand, if you release too soon, it's going to go straight toward the ground, hold on too long, and it's going to really overdo it and go toward the right. So finding that release point is really important. So after you've brought it up, around, and it's come across, you should feel it hit that tricep. It'll come across at a slight diagonal. The baton's going to roll off of your tricep as it swings up, and similar to how we did it with the open hand release this way, with the leverage pulling down, the other end coming up, that increases that revolution. It's kind of a similar mechanism happening here. It's going to roll off the back of your elbow, and as it hits this side, this is going to, in essence, pull this side of the baton down and lift the other side, giving the baton lift and revolution. So you really want to make sure that you hit that tricep point with the end of the baton so that it can really turn. The reception for the elbow release is very similar to the thumb toss. You're going to receive it with your palm up and your thumb out. This one is also very easy to receive it with that palm up, but in order to really follow through smoothly, you want to catch it with that thumb out and your palm forward. To drill the elbow flip, once again, it's very easy to incorporate into your daily routine. You're simply going to elbow release, catch, big arm circle, and then continue to do several of them in a row. This not only helps you build momentum, but it will also help you build consistency through drilling. Some of you may be coming away from this video feeling a little bit stressed if this wasn't the way that you were originally trained to do these flips. But don't worry, it's never too late to start training new proper technique muscle memory. In fact, I actually took an entire year out of my training at one point to go back to basics and drill these exact fundamentals properly, and it made all the difference in my twirling career. So I encourage you to do the same. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below to let me know. And until next time, work hard and be bold.